Hi everyone and welcome. This is Lavender Sky Panther. Today is Tuesday, August 23rd, 2022, and the topic for the day is called Sky.Ground. It's a collection of images and sky observations happening up through about, I believe, August 17th this time around, 2022. It's show number 166. And before we get into all the sky observations, here's an alternate cover slide. I was gonna, go with possibly called Sky Suddenly, with a very interesting phenomenon happening over a parking lot near a grocery store. And then we are also going to look at a couple of words, wisdom, and spirit of the day pages. I'm not going to spend too long on this one. I did draw 3 cards from the Mystical Shaman deck, Oracle deck. I'll put more details on that in the description box below. But what I wanted to do was just a very quick 3-card draw representing the past as the first card, the present, the second card, the third card, future. So we kick it off with the wind, number 63. And I just wanted to distill this down to one simple little message today. And it is, when the spirit of the wind comes calling, it's a sign of change. And this little quote is excerpted from the companion book to this Mystical Shaman Oracle deck. Now I felt drawn to put this card up in the bark of a tree. So it's like sitting up in the tree. It just seemed to be at home there. Then I took all of these outside to just take pictures of them with interesting nature backgrounds. So the second one for the present is the heart of the sky, number 24. And the quote there is, "You are a channel for the original energy of creation." And I have that sitting on the background of some beautiful Hawaiian tea leaves from a tea plant. Then we have the council, number 11, representing the future here. Listen with your inner senses, with emphasis on that. And I was drawn to place this card over a rock, a piece of coral rock with another stone by it and little moss and fern growing next to it. So what I want to say first off, as I say always, when we're looking at the numbers and what they mean, in this case we've got number 63, number 24, and number 11. Now in numerology, these each also further can be translated down to a number 9, number 6, and a number 2, if that means anything to anyone right now. Also, I would like to refer you over to see the angel numbers by Joanne Sacred Scribes. Just go do an internet search on that. It's an Australian blog site, and she shows all of in detail what these numbers mean, and some of the symbolisms and things, all in a positive light. So I'm not going to spend any time on the numbers. Just see if any of those jump out at you. And one little thing that I just want to pass over these 3 before we continue on is that I love the way that these happen to be represented by female characteristics. And what I like is, in each case, they've got their hands like kind of near the heart center. So she's got like an object, she's holding it over the heart center. In the heart of the sky, it's a void, which I love because it's like the 0 point of creation of limitless possibilities. But it's also centered around her heart center. And then the council, where she's got her hands also up and kind of, honoring the sacred heart center as she looks down. So even though she's grounded here, she's got the infinite world of possibilities. You can just tell, almost like through a portal, through whatever horns are kind of interlocking here. They all have kind of headpieces on too. So the wind, she also has some kind of like twigs, representation of almost like antennas or connecting out into the ethers. And same thing here, something very ornamental though is happening here, almost where like this is an orb or a planet or something. Again, the idea of the crown opening up into the infinite connection to all, and in a slightly different way than can be done through the heart space. And the one last thing I just want to say is they also, all 3 figures have some kind of eye makeup or ornamentation happening below the eyes. So in this case, it's white. She's got a very optimistic view looking out into the expansiveness. Now in the center card, she's got darkness around the eyes, but also still kind of like windows peering into the infinite, in this case into galaxies and stars. And maybe her eyes are actually, they look like they are closed. So in this case, yes, they're closed, so it kind of doesn't matter what's happening on the outside. This is all ornamental anyway. It's what's happening on the inside of the third eye and how that can connect on infinitely. Then we've got this one where again the eyes are closed, and she's just kind of focusing in on the heart space and the alignment, which alignment from going above, up into the ethers, but also connected very much down into the earth and into the ground. So that's just all I wanted to mention today. Hopefully that means something to somebody out there. All right, now we're going to do a couple more words wisdom of the day pages. I'm not going to belabor them too much. but I just saw a fun little correlation in the next two images along with the first sky observation image coming up. So this is just something I found on the ground after being pelted with acorns and twig bits, and I was wondering what was going on, and I looked up, and it was a whole family of little young blue jays, and they happened to be eating and flying around, but I was kind of getting a feeling at some point they were deliberately bombing me with these things. But anyway, I looked down and I just thought how beautiful and exquisite this acorn is in and of itself. It's sitting on, by contrast, man-made asphalt and tarry, mess. But it actually highlights the beauty of nature here by its juxtaposition. And I love the way this cap on the acorn looks like some kind of intricately woven, like palm leaves or something, palm branches, just really beautiful, palm fronds to me on a mini scale. Anyway, I just thought it was a gorgeous scene in and of itself. I wanted to post it. And then here, just reminded me of this green of the seed of the acorn. And then I saw this walking through some neighborhoods, and I really was captivated by these avocados, or alligator pears that they sometimes can be called, although I haven't heard anybody reference it on the street in Miami, Florida. But in Florida, it's known another name for it. Anyway, I love the way it was just suspended. It just seemed like frozen in time. And then here we come to the first sky observation, just reminded me of this kind of teardrop or drop shape of these, previous two slides. So anyway, I'm not going to cover, what I'm doing here and why I'm doing it. I invite you to look at any of my earlier shows for that. I do welcome you if you are new here, and a heartfelt thanks for that. And as well, I extend that to anybody who's returning. I really appreciate you stopping by. In this case, we're going to be looking over the skies of Miami this go around, and we're going to be looking at some of the anomalies, strangeness, just flat out strange things happening. Most of the time, you're going to hear me talking about cloak and craft. When I say that, I'm going to refer to the cloaking stuff, like in this example to the right-hand side, as plasma, just stuff that's heavier and denser than cloud material that can really cling to objects and help obscure them in the sky. And so when you see cloud in quotes, I'm really implying, or pretty much saying cloak and craft, okay? Now, in this case, on the left-hand side is the original, the right-hand side is the enhanced version to really draw things out better. And I just noticed this odd shape, kind of whether it's a ring or it's an optical illusion. It could be a lighter cloud sitting in front of a darker one, which is what I think the case is here. But what really struck me is, if you look to the right-hand side, is how these things kind of do a weird little curve, branching off of this straighter piece. And it seems to echo beyond and be exactly parallel. So to me, this is an overall cloak and craft. We got these two antenna-like things. They're splayed a little bit, but for the most part, they're parallel, and there's sticks moving in a completely opposite direction than everything else in this assembly. So I'm calling that cloak and craft. I even see individual elements that look triangular-like, and also like ellipsoidal, vertical, completely vertical. So like I say, and this looks like a downturned triangle to me. So whenever we've got pieces that are parts that are very rigid and moving in all different directions, that also tells me we are not dealing with any natural cloud in the sky. So I'm calling that cloaking craft or cloaking objects. Now we're going to look to the east-southeast in the afternoon, and what caught my attention was this. Flying right across dead level, look at this. We have what looks like a chemical trail or some type of obviously artificially made straight line, dead level across the sky. Now, there might not be chemical in there. It could also just be an obscuring trail, because more often than not, these things pop up. Look how what low altitude this thing is. When they pop up so low also, sometimes you got to look around, because more often than not, they happen to pass right over other cloaking objects happening beyond. It looks like something is coming through almost to, take your attention away so you don't look at some of the cloaking craft happening in the sky. We look to the right-hand side, and with enhancement, you can see a little bit better. Something definitely different is happening here. It's a very wisp-like, artificial-looking, quote-unquote, cloud. And then beyond, over here at C.1, we start to see a ring with like two prongs coming off of it. Something very rigid that hooks up like an elbow pipe. Very strange. So we're going to take a look at that again here. C.2, this is a very clear, defined ring with kind of little bulbous points at the ends. It's a very clear cylinder to me. See what you think is going on here. So again, I think this B.2, this like straight line coming across, it's just kind of like it'll expand over time and cloud your view from seeing this stuff beyond. And also just the fact that it's so crisp, it draws your attention away from whatever might be happening beyond. That's what I think is going on here. All right, now we're going to look to the south. And, you know, I just said something about the lighting. Let's just say something seemed very luminous, like generating its own light over here at A. And just the juxtaposition of some of these shapes just looked really weird to me. There looks to be like a peak or a point at C. So I thought, let's look at this with enhancement. Excuse me. And as we can see, there's also another triangular thing happening here. Looks like a machine part, almost like pushing out, you know, this particulate, this stuff trying to cloak it. And then up here too, I just get a sense that this overall thing at 8.1, there's a little more than meets the eye here. It seems like that's an overall craft to me. Also, look again, we've got this ring, this like cylindrical form on its side. So there's definitely machine parts and things very rigid happening in this sky scene. I'm going to call it cloak and craft. Let's see what you think. We're going to move in a little bit more at 8.2. I'm taking all color out of here so we can just focus on some shapes a little bit better. And here we've got definitely like a ring or cylindrical form with a cloud in front of it. And then we have, you know, very like pipe-like shapes, very odd but very rigid shapes that look like, you know, this is just cloaking material coming over this thing. And then over here at C.2, you know, that's definitely like an arrowhead. It's very clear, very crisp. No cloud, natural cloud does that. So what is it then? You judge on that one. All right, now we're going to look over here. This was a scene with the moonlight. I actually have a shorts that I did putting it to the theme of Sting with the Dream of the Blue Turtles album, Moon over Bourbon Street. And so anyway, we look up because I didn't quite capture all of this in that shorts. We look to the right, and with some enhancement, look, I catch an object here at 8.1. It's very clearly an object with maybe a little vapor trail behind it, maybe another little cylindrical object coming up behind it. And we've got shadow, we've got also some strange movement up here. So, and also maybe down here, this looks a little bit triangular to me. There look like horizontal lines, concentric lines coming over this thing. A weird kind of blocky rectangular form. I mean, the more you look at this, the more you see. So I'm going to venture to say there's a bunch of cloak and craft happening up in here. All right, now we're going to, and that was actually near full moon, not quite, I think a day before the full moon. Now we're going to look at this. Now, originally I was zoomed out a bit, but I was just standing out in the middle of a parking lot with my camera phone, and I started taking an overall bigger scene. I've just zoomed in a little bit because this becomes of primary interest. This white object just popped out. Now I had a couple more frames, one ahead of this and one after this. These are two separate frames, pictures taken, and this was not in either one. So a split second before, split second after, this was not there. But in two frames, I caught this little thing cruising along. It's vertical, has a little vapor trail behind it, and then it zooms up and has a bigger trail behind it. So we're going to zoom in on this. First, I'm going to put enhancement on it so we can better see what is this little thing. Really kind of crazy. I'm zooming in a little bit more, and you know, still equally mysterious. It does morph and change a bit. Over here on the left, it has a shadow. Over here on the right, it kind of separates a little more from its trail and changes color a little bit. And it's still white, but the energy within it, you know, so you can tell it's morphing and changing a bit. So anyway, I'm doing more extreme enhancement on the paired grouping up here above, and I push the contrast more and take the color out on the two below. Again, this is the first one appearing, and then its movement a second later. So we just see it is morphing and changing a little bit. It looks like a little round piece on top of a little body, like a little person, and then that edge just goes straight, flat and straight as it morphs. So what is this little object? Is it like a sensor or some kind of instrumentation? Looks like it just popped in out of a portal, or maybe there's another craft heavily cloaked beyond, and this thing is just jettisoning out. I don't know. See what you think. All right, now we're going to look at another scene southeast in the skies and at around 2:20 in the afternoon. Now this one, we can just spend time looking over at the right-hand side. This is the overall scene, a big whiteout above, and then this weird thing diving all the way down really caught my attention because that is not a normal cloud shape. It's not a natural cloud shape. And so when I put enhancement on, we see there's even an object, like an weird kind of maybe avocado-like looking shaped thing up in the sky, really big, with a like straight line coming across. So already we know those are two different objects. And then what the heck is happening here? It kind of like has a little trail behind it. There's a little object. We're gonna take more. I'm sorry, my speech is all over the place today. We're going to take a closer look at this in a second. So here we are. you're going to see like a little shape is going to emerge at the top of this thing where this white trail starts to come down. And this looks like two other craft going off at different angles. So with enhancement, you can see, I see that little object up here, darker imprint of something. This also could be part of something much bigger. If you follow my cursor, it's hard to say. Either way, there's something up here though, because that's the origin point of this weird little skinny vapor trail. And then it turns into a little cylindrical piece moving off this way, one coming up on another angle this way, one splaying down yet again another way. And then there also seems to be a straight line forming. So there's a lot going on here. I'm going to go toggle back and forth. I lightened up the image a bit to catch this darker object up here. And then this is where I see actually really straight lines in a form. And then there's like a groove here on the side. So I think this is part of an overall bigger craft now that we really look at it. So I'm going to go back. And so here's this dark object part. And here's where I start to see the lines. So that's what I get. So see what you see in there. And as always, with all of these pictures and enhancements, the more you really look, the more you're going to find in there as far as craft and other things. Now we're going to just zoom in at the end of that little tongue-in-cheek thing. I call it like lightning strike in the shorts video, set to hot, hot, hot by The Cure. But anyway, look at, there's a ring with like a termination point of some kind, like a ball or sphere, and it comes around this way, and there's something else happening here, and there's a line happening this way that's pretty rigid. So what is going on here exactly? I don't know. See what you think. But I know it does look technical. It looks like it's been engineered, and it's just not a natural cloud, I'll tell you that. All right, now we're looking off to the east, northeast, and this was just a very strange scene. We have a huge whiteout up here. Now this is subtropical to tropical Florida. It's Miami. It's very hot. We never get skies like this. This is not like we're in some northern winter, sky. This is a complete whiteout of artificial particulate and no other way around it. And then it's also within it's doing different movement. It's like got many different layers. As the more you look, you see that. So it's just very strange, and how the particulate is even forming down here, but yet not here in this gap. It's just very odd. So when we put enhancement on it, you see it looks like there's a dark object, this band moving all the way, that it even shows up through the particulate here at B.1. So I gotta say, there's some type of craft or some kind of technology creating this of artificial means, because this is not natural. And then this even gets a little weird. We start to get texture as we move along here. So I wouldn't be surprised if we're just not glimpsing part of a much bigger craft. And this huge whiteout is very convenient to hide it. And then we get this thing happening here below too. I'm not sure what's going on here, but this thing, the way this is bending down as well, it's very, very mysterious. See what you think that is. Okay, now we're looking to the south in the afternoon, and I just noticed again what caught my attention on the left-hand side here, and the original photo is that again we got a horizontal moving across, and then something springing up vertical and doing its own thing. And again, natural clouds don't do that. This little thing down here is just an airplane, so it gives you an idea of the scale of what we're looking at. So we look to the right, and again, what is happening here? Natural clouds just don't do these kinds of maneuvers in the sky. So I'm calling that cloaking craft or multiple cloaking craft of some kind. And then we look at all this disturbance. It's really crazy. I call that staccato cloud effect, when it's choppy and fuzzy even to the naked eye, and just means disruption local, in the atmosphere. So is that a bigger craft up here cloaking, and it's generating this kind of stuff, or these things have their own capability to send out electromagnetic waves or radio waves or something? So we can't fully see what it is. We get a hint of it, but not, dead on. I think that's what's going on here. See what you think. We're going to zoom in on this thing. So look, it's made up of many parts, definitely like solids, doing their own thing. These look like an elongated triangle, and like a splayed triangle over here, another one here. So what these are doing exactly, I have no idea. It looks like other things are cloaking beyond. And then when we're looking at this scene to the south, and it just looks strange overall. Here's a bit of that like lightning strike thing I was just showing earlier. And then we have this thing. Look at, this is coming to a point, like a triangular form, and with a vertical to it. It's actually this overall shape. Let's hop over to the right. Looks like a rigid form cloaking to me, and it looks like it's springing up out of this cloud, but it's all cloaked. Again, see what you think with that, but this looks too odd of a shape to be a natural cloud. And normally clouds aren't going to move across the sky one way with something, jumping out vertically the other way and be natural. This is a little fuzzy to begin with, this photo on the left, but it's all I could catch. It was getting, darker and darker. My camera phone doesn't do the best job with darkness. But anyway, we see this line at B is what caught my attention, letter B. We go to the right, and here you can just see it's like a stick-like thing poking out of here. Again, that would not be a natural cloud. This also has a feeling of something very rigid to it at 8.1, like that's some type of craft. We also look at the movement. These things are going this way. This thing is swooping up in another direction, and these things are doing their own thing. It was just a very odd scene. And then you add into it the color saturation, the colors. It's like really white up here, gets really red, raspberry, looking in here. And then down here it goes to pure yellow, orange, where the actual sun is more or less setting. Although, actually, no, this is north. That was also weird about the scene, is this is absolute straight north, and it was so red and reddish in tone. Now, I know it's exaggerated in the highlighted version to the right, enhanced version, but look to the left. Even though you can see it's warm pink here, to the naked eye it was more pink than what the photo is showing. But that's how I knew that once we'd go to enhancement, we'd see the full color range. In a better way. So anyway, this is what's going on in this scene. What do you think's happening? I mean, it's just, again, too bizarre to be natural cloud. You wouldn't have things moving across really low in the atmosphere straight like this, and then something just moving off at a weird angle like that. This cloud buildup, that just doesn't happen in southern Florida skies. All right, now this is just really odd too, looking west. Look at this thing. So actually, yeah. So we had this thing coming across, looking very mysterious in its own right, with these two little vertical things and this very odd looking quote unquote cloud, odd man out doing its own thing, something very weird happening up here at A as well. And then this muted artificial looking sun happening, in the background against all of this heavy cloud or particulate, in the air. So we look to the right, and with enhancement, we see something like splashing down in here, swooshing down in here. And again, what the heck is this thing? Because that's just so strange to be sitting in the sky like this. It has very straight edges too. Looks symmetrical. And then this thing coming straight across with these two things very vertical. So to me, this looks like this more horizontal thing. Looks like the top deck of a ship with like instrumentation or equipment's poking up out of here. And who knows, maybe this is even like not the bridge, but some kind of observation deck or radar device popping up out of here that they're cloaking. Whatever the case, it's not natural. We zoom in a little bit more to see that. So look at this thing. No clouds have perfect edges, more or less, pretty straight. And what are these two things at AA? It's really, really weird. And then here we get like a rim effect, a very hard line that curves around. So I think this whole thing is the top of some type of top deck of a ship or something. And then we look at it again with slightly different coloration on the enhancement, just to look at it in a different way. And again, we see like a diamond-like form, and then this rim, popping up out of here. And then what are these two things at AA.1? Got like a rectangular stick and pointed elliptical thing right next to it. Very, very odd. All right, now we're just looking. I didn't call out letters or numbers on this one. We're just going to look at the overall scene. Just the texture and everything of this was really, really strange, and also the angle. And then this little companion thing diving down next to it. So we look at the right-hand side at the enhanced photo, and we can just see. I can't even tell you what that is, but I can tell you I've never seen something like that over the skies of Miami. Over decades of living in this area and coming back and forth, living around the world, coming back and visiting. And then we have this thing, which has a very distinct shape to it. I don't know what it is or what it's doing, but I know, again, that's not natural cloud. All right, then we're going to look to the north, and this just caught my attention because these were like the only two things sailing across. And they have some, like, a curved shape to the top, each in their own way, almost like two little whales swimming across, or like dolphin-like things. And then with enhancement, we see a little bit more. So this absolutely does look like a rigid structure. Very beautiful and elegant, eloquent. We get a lot of shadow here, and darkness. So I'm calling this a pair of cloaking craft. Then this thing looking to the west was all by itself and looked very noticeable. It looks like it has indentations on it, little like crater or pock marks. Really strange. So with enhancement, and again, keep in mind this is the western sky when it should be like sunset. We even get like greens and yellows popping up. That's not typical for, when I do the enhancements to the west. And at that altitude anyway. And then we get this, which comes up a little more golden. But look at all the patterning in this thing. What is going on? Is this an object cloaking in and of itself? Or is this just kind of like part of the cloaking, like a byproduct of it, again, a red herring to catch your attention while the more massive cloaking thing is happening beyond it? Hard to say. See what you think. Okay, then we're going to move to this scene looking north-northeast, and what caught my attention was these long striations aren't very typical, and also the angles. And again, all this massive white particulate stuff is just not typical for this area, and it's just like a blanketing white out of whatever might be going beyond. And what was weird is that even though these are pitched up on an angle, this thing at A is coming across more or less level. So we want to zoom in and look at that. But before we do, I'm just taking it, at that like zoomed out scene, playing around with the contrast and stuff to get at what this little object is. And then sure enough, we see that these look like objects and not voids, maybe part of something even bigger beyond. And these weird hot spots or burn spots tell me there's some kind of energy source on like two different objects happening beyond this thick particulate. Also dark bodies moving in here maybe. So we're going to zoom in on just that element, check it out, and it's definitely some kind of object in and of itself that looks like it just jettisoned out off of whatever this thing is, this bigger thing is. Okay, then we're going to get to the scene. This is the original to the cover slide, which was enhanced. And what struck me out about this one, and again, I made a shorts out of this one, and I set it to Seven Nation Army by the White Stripes, was there's just so much activity going on here. So these vertical quote-unquote clouds, those don't even look natural. They're totally artificially made and are guaranteed to be cloaking a ton of stuff in there, cloak and craft. Because look at, they're right next to these long, straight, really thin lines, which would not ever occur in nature and develop like this. Right next to these things, same altitude. You can't have two totally radically different clouds moving in two, flat and then vertical or near vertical, moving the other way. So to me, this just screamed there's something going on here. And then on top of it, you look at letter A, and we got a straight line with a point, and it looks like again, like this thing just erupted and shot up vertically, and it's just hovering here. And then we get all different kind of color signatures. I mean, when you see this, you can see it all better. This is not a natural cloud. Totally looks like a cloak and craft, just like zooming straight up. We've got this ball of energy behind it, self-generating whatever that illumination is. And then again, we got a vertical cloud here, something on angle that looks like a triangular cloak and craft pitched on angle. These are not vertical. They're not vertical clouds. They're not really following any pattern where they would all be consistently the same angle or anything. They're each doing their own thing. So, there's got to be individual things happening in there that are of intelligence, is what I'm going to say. These are not just natural clouds flying through the air. No way. We're going to zoom in a little bit, and again, look at this. Within each of these straight bands, there's even grooves that look like they're intelligently created. That looks like craft. That looks like metal to me, formed and sculptured. But see what you think. Then we're going to take all color out of it so we're not distracted by that. And just try to look at, we've got hard edges here. And again, these grooves are very precise, parallel. It looks like something trying to mimic something organic, but it feels very metallic to me. And there's even more down here. Look how straight these things are and all parallel. So see what you think is happening in that scene. Now we're going to look to the west, a very interesting sky. This is just the original photo. A lot of different shades of gray happening up in here, and then warm tones erupting at the bottom. So I thought, let's check out what's going on, and I was surprised to find more than I bargained for. So up at 8.1, it looks like definitely some type of structure happening up in this cloud, this indigo purple, type of cloud, artificial cloud anyway, cloaking cloud. I absolutely think there's something cloaking beyond in here, multiple things. Then we go to B.1 and we get a different color signature down here. It's a little more raspberry than the reds happening around it. So I definitely think there's also, if you follow my cursor, some type of elongated shaped craft, maybe with a curved edge to it happening in here. And then we look down at this golden, stuff, and it seems like where this white is popping out, there also might be craft down in here. It's very odd, though, that we have in the background, everything's like a whiteout, which I'm going to call the artificial sun back there. So what's really strange is that we get 3 distinct color signatures on each of these bands. Very interesting. Haven't quite seen that before. All right, now we're going to look at a panorama, looking from north to the right to the west is to the left. The bottom scene is the original photo, but what caught my attention right away was this vertical thing looking like a campfire somebody put out and the smoke rising up. But then we've got a curve over here, a very precise curve with, you know, straight edges, which to me look like cloak and craft, just popping out of here. And then something totally different happening with these striations to the left. So we look up, jump up above. We absolutely see different color signatures happening in this scene. We have the reds and pinks beyond. Do look at my description box below for what could be causing that red-pink in the sky. And it looks like we have that artificial sun, or maybe this is a big massive collection of craft that are generating its own energy out to kind of white out again what's really going on. I have no explanation for what B is. It's not a natural fire or anything. It's definitely within the sky, something being generated there. So see what you think's going on. And then we go down to the edge here of C.1, and there's definitely things like shooting off here, these little sticks with like a triangular form at the end. I think that's a craft popping up out of this thing. See what you think. All right, now here's another source of one of my shorts. This one is the original on the left, and the enhanced version on the right gives us a better idea of what's going on. This one, what was this? Was this How Soon Is Now? I can't remember which song I put it to now. I think so. But anyway, look at, we'll jump to the right. Well, no, sorry. We'll stick with the original first, because what I saw was a weird kind of particulate fuzz out at the bottom, and then something very clearly cloaking here with a very straight line at A, and then a totally different phenomenon developing right local, very isolated at C, and it didn't even seem to fit, because there was no, you know, bad weather happening anywhere. This just kind of was erupting out of nowhere. So we look to the right with enhancement. We see different color signatures up here at C.1, and they happen down here at B1 as well, but not over at A.1. So it's a very odd collection of elements. At the very final photo of the day, I do kind of, I put a sketch line over what I'm seeing, because I do see at C.1 a triangular form, a distinct form here, and a distinct form down here. So we'll get to that in a bit. All right, in the meantime though, here's another one I set to a shorts, to The Windmills of Your Mind, that song. And because this just looked totally out of place, it was extremely low. It looked like something sitting propped up on top of another cloud base, two totally different cloud types right next to each other. This thing at C forming its own distinct shape. And then what is this whirl around happening here? What the heck is going on at B? While we have stuff shooting off at a different angle over at D, a straight line coming across too. Very strange stuff. So with enhancement, this just exaggerates and shows how radically different all the movement is in this sky, and just would never be a natural cloud formation, especially when you have different trajectories going all the way off here and hooking around, while you have a distinct shape here, something else happening down here, and a straight line happening over here, you know, not even getting into what the heck is going on up here at A.1. So we're zooming in. I'll go back. We're going to zoom in on C.1 now. I should have kept the same lettering, but anyway, you see what I mean. We're looking in here because this starts to have structure to it at A, also something at B, and with enhancement you kind of see a little stick-like element, or maybe it's like a half pipe, you know, like a straw that was cut in two and you just see half of the curve. Something really strange is going on in here though, to, you know, back up that this is just not natural cloud, that doesn't even form like that to begin with. I'm going to zoom in one more time and you see the shadow here, the shadow line, that's like a stick-like thing popping up out of here. All right, now we're going to go to this scene, and actually on the left it's the source photo for the other shorts, which we had the Nelly Furtado song, what is it now? Say It Right. And so here we have, you know, definitely like a cloak and craft, darker tone, floating in front of this big white out beyond it. And when we go to the right and do the enhancement, you can see this is object. It's not just, you know, something else, because it has a denser structure to it, and then something more wispy happening, you know, over the top of it. Anyway, you can also see other things that I didn't point out in the shorts. You know, this thing coming down also has solidity to it with the plasma or cloaking material wafting over it. And this actually looks like one of two, you know, parallel arms. So this has structure to it. I'm going to call that also cloak and craft. There's a lot going on here that we just can't see intentionally because it's been cloaked out. All right, now this one is looking west, and we have this cross, this kind of crisscross with some solid elements, it looks like down here. Really weird scene. And here with enhancement, you know, we can see them a little bit more, that there's absolutely looks like 2 objects in here and a third one coming across this way. Possibly this one even like flew out of here. See what you think. Also, what's weird is the coloration on this one. All right, now we're going to zoom in looking west, and I started to see something emerging. And a lot of times when you see these cloak and craft, they just, you know, it's just such a split-second moment in time when you start watching it, and you watch some material, and then it gets more defined, and then before you know it, it becomes more of an object, and then a split second later, it just vanishes. So you got to catch these things and be lucky when you catch them. Here's with enhancement, we have different color signature happening here. This darker area shows me this absolutely looks like some kind of cloak and craft here. And also yet another one happening at B.1, although a completely different color signature. And there's something that looks very stick-like happening over here where my cursor is. There's, again, a lot going on in here, but the particulate is so dense, we can only get glimpses of things happening, but things definitely with rigid structure to them, so I'm calling it cloak and craft, or objects. Now we're looking north, and what's odd about this one is it was much more red-pink to the eye than is coming off in this photo, and there's a lot of particulate all in the sky. And so, but anyway, this is really, really like a dark pink, and we see a little over here too, and a very odd cloud formation happening, you know, back here. So with enhancement, you see it all a little bit better. Just the kind of extraordinary range of reds and pinks. And again, this is happening to the north. It should not be happening to the north at sunset, which is happening off to the left side of the screen. All right, well, here's the photo of the day and the close of the show. And this is the screenshot, you know, from the shorts set to How Soon Is Now by the Smiths. And this is where I was saying, if you go back and look at that shorts, this is where I see a triangle at the top, and then this bigger object with the orange lines coming around. This is a very straight line, so something's absolutely cloaking in there. Maybe this is even a triangle in front of some bigger cloak and craft. Another outline of a triangle can be clearly seen in that little shorts video. And then down here, this isn't the exact representation, but there's something kind of with like 2 little legs, looks symmetrical, happening that's cloaking down in here. So anyway, I hope you were able to pick those out if you looked at the shorts, and maybe you found even more things that I'm pointing out. Anyway, I want to say thanks for tuning in here, tuning in over here a while, and I wish you just gorgeous right now, and tremendous peace and love. Lavender Sky Panther. Bye.